Chapter 14:22. Just now, the female teacher was clearly targeting her. Yunjian wasn't an idiot, so she naturally saw through it. Therefore, Yunjian decided to beat her at her own game and directly retorted back. This time, the female teacher was extremely embarrassed. The female teacher regretted that she wanted to deal with Yunjian. Especially now, in front of the most handsome, most outstanding and youngest instructor in the school, the female teacher was really a bit shy. After all, she was only 28 years old and was still unmarried. To put it bluntly, the female teacher wanted to leave a good impression in front of an outstanding man like Instructor Yu. But who would have thought that Yunjian wouldn't be like the previous students who obediently followed her words and walked through the school gate? Instead, she directly pointed out what she had just done in front of Instructor Yu. Wasn't this clearly making her lose face? The female teacher clenched her fist in her heart. But because Yunjian was a killing god, she could only force a smile that was still trembling to face Yunjian. Yo hee hee, how could that be? Teacher was just joking with you guys. In any case, you guys are new students who just entered the school. It's normal that you don't understand the school rules. Wait until you're familiar with the school rules, then don't make such a low-level mistake again. In school, if you meet a kind teacher like me, then it's fine. If you meet a kind teacher like me, then it's fine. But if you meet a kind teacher like me, then... Ha! The female teacher didn't finish her words, but the meaning in her words was more or less incisive. Just hearing the sentence, if you meet a kind teacher like me, Yunjian felt goosebumps all over her body. I really haven't met a teacher who would stop someone on the first day of school wearing a short skirt and insist on deducting marks. Yunjian very calmly said this embarrassing reality in front of the female teacher, without giving her any face. When these words came out, even Yu Xiaoluo felt a bit embarrassed. Ahem. That, Yunjian, I think you guys should go back to the classroom first. It's already 8:43. Aren't you guys going to be late at 9 o'clock? Yu Xiaoluo stood up to ease the awkward atmosphere. We're waiting for a friend, Yunjian said calmly. She then turned to the female teacher and said politely, thank you for asking me to stay, but I'm very sorry that you didn't manage to deduct points from my class today. After that, Yunjian dragged Lin Wan to the other side to wait for Mu Ying. Cough cough. I'll go take a look. Yu Xiaoluo didn't like talking to this female teacher who was almost 30 years old, wore a pair of high heels, and was less than 1.55 meters tall, so he casually found an excuse. The female teacher's ugliness was only one of the reasons. What Yu Xiaoluo didn't like was the conduct of the female teacher. Without it, I can't sleep. It was a girl wearing a princess dress and dressed like a doll. She was sitting on the upper bunk bed. She was rummaging through her bag. Seeing that there was nothing in her bag that she wanted, she became impatient and threw a teacup from her bag onto the bed. Yunjian had just entered her dorm when she was hit. Ah! Someone came in. One of the girls couldn't help but exclaim when she saw Yunjian walk in, and the teacup just happened to be thrown at Yunjian. The other girls were slightly frightened. However, they saw that after Yunjian sensed the danger, she reached out and caught the teacup that the girl in the princess dress had thrown from the upper bunk. Yunjian didn't even look up and caught it. Obviously, the girls in front of her didn't know about Yunjian's achievements during the military training. Yunjian also didn't see these girls during the military training. They probably didn't participate in the military training. After all, not all students who came to the military school to become special forces or soldiers. The military school also had a major for training military doctors. Many female students still came to the military school to apply for the military doctor's position. Therefore, it wasn't strange that these female students didn't participate in the military training last time. Yunjian, your name is really nice, haha. Ning Kai-dai smiled at Yunjian. You guys are so annoying. Keep talking. Can't you see that I'm so annoying? Could you please shut your mouths? I'm going to make a call. Chapter 14:25. Seeing that the person sitting on the upper bunk had flipped out again, Ning Kai-dai pursed her lips and hurriedly pulled Yunjian to the toilet. Then she leaned over to Yunjian's ear and whispered, she's called Cheng Jiaojie. I don't know which class she's from. Anyway, she got angry the moment she entered the dormitory. After greeting us, she sat on the bed and threw a tantrum. I don't know who provoked her, but I think she's quite difficult to get along with. Oh right, there's another roommate in our dormitory. I heard that something happened at home, so she'll come back a few days later. Also, don't take the initiative to talk to Chang Jiaojia. She's... Ning Kai-dai didn't say anything after that. After Yun Jian walked out of the toilet, she saw Chang Jiaojia standing on the upper bunk bed with her hands on her hips. She was holding a cell phone in her hand and shouting at it. Yun Jian didn't know who she was dialing. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be a military doctor. I want to go home. Get the butler to drive me home. What? Mom won't let me? I don't want to. I'm studying in this lousy school, and I'm not allowed to go home. I can't even hug my teddy bear to sleep. I want to go home. I want you to get the butler to drive me home immediately. Otherwise, I'll complain to Grandma and get her to fire you. Regardless of Chang Jiaojia's identity, one could tell from her clothes and the way she was shouting at the person on the other end of the phone. Chang Jiaojia was most likely a rich young lady. She definitely had some status. Yun Jian carried her school bag and went straight to the top bunk bed in the corner. She threw her school bag on the bed, then grabbed the handrail of the top bunk bed. She didn't even put her leg on the steps of the top bunk bed. With a flip of one foot, she jumped from the ground to the top bunk bed that was about 1.45 meters high. Then, she began to tidy up her things. None of the girls in dormitory 602 came to the military school to learn martial arts, except for Yun Jian. Every girl here was here because they wanted to study military medicine. This meant that every girl here was no different from an ordinary girl. Therefore, when they saw Yun Jian jump onto the bed, every girl present opened their mouths wide in shock. Even Chang Jiaojia, who was still throwing a tantrum, opened her mouth and didn't react for a long time. Wow, my God! Yun Jian, why are you so powerful? Aren't you a medical student? When Ning Kai-dai saw Yun Jian's move, she and Meng Xiaolian walked over in surprise. The two of them looked at Yun Jian in shock. Study medicine? Yun Jian's eyebrows twitched slightly, then she shook her head gently. No. Wow. Are you planning to become a soldier in the future? Ning Kai-dai continued to ask in shock. Special Forces, Yun Jian answered with 3 words. That's so cool. Ning Kai-dai shouted again. Shut up. All of you shut up. Do you still want me to talk on the phone or not? Cheng Jiaojia roared again. This time, the atmosphere was completely stifled, and no one spoke. After tidying up their blankets and things in the dormitory, they returned to their respective classrooms. September 10th was the first day of school, and the students didn't attend classes on the first day. As soon as they arrived at the classroom, the homeroom teacher, Teacher Chu, announced a particularly delightful news. Students, the day after tomorrow, which is September 12th, is our school's 50th anniversary. In order to celebrate, the school is preparing to hold a food festival for the whole day. Because the announcement was rather sudden, the sophomores and juniors already knew about it. So tomorrow, the freshmen can go out to buy food and prepare for the food festival. Seeing Yun Jian come over, Ning Kai-dai stuffed a cake into Yun Jian's hands. Hey, Xiaolian and I made this together. It's free of charge. It's delicious, hee hee. Yun Jian accepted it without hesitation. Just as she took the cake, she suddenly saw a military helicopter anxiously landing on the sports field not far away from the food festival. The food festival stall was not far from the sports field. When she saw the military helicopter, Yun Jian's eyelids twitched slightly. At this moment, she saw Yu Xiaoluo running over. When he saw Yun Jian, Yu Xiaoluo's expression was very ugly. Yun Jian. When Yu Xiaoluo ran over, his face was terrifyingly dark. It was an ugly and uneasy feeling that he had never felt before. Yun Jian, listen to me. Don't get agitated. Your dad. He represented Z country and a group of Interpol yesterday to arrest the boss of the European and American underground black market. In the end, he didn't come back. According to the people who escaped, he was caught. It's very likely that he's already. Yun Jian's dad was naturally referring to Gu Junjian. At this point, Yu Xiaoluo's voice was a little choked up. Hearing this, the surrounding students were stunned. All the students in the military academy had just come into contact with these things. They all thought that these things that Yu Xiaoluo was talking about were very distant and glorious. But when they found out that Yunjian's dad was very likely sacrificed because of this, all the students standing around couldn't help but look at Yunjian sympathetically. They thought that Yunjian would start howling like a normal girl after hearing about this. No, no. My dad will be fine. But after hearing this, Yunjian was very calm. She looked at Yu Xiaoluo and said calmly, "The boss of the European and American underground black market, right? Bring me there immediately." When Yu Xiaoluo heard Yunjian's words, he thought that she was crazy. Yunjian was powerful, the killing god of Team Monarch. But she was just a child. No matter how powerful she was, how could she fight against the European and American underground forces alone? Yunjian, don't get agitated. Listen to me. We'll do our best to save your dad. Before Yu Xiaoluo could finish, Yunjian said to Yu Xiaoluo in front of all the students. Chapter 14:27. Once Yunjian said that, everyone was stunned. Whether it was the instructors who chased after Yu Xiaoluo, Lin Wan, Yunjian's new roommates, Ning Kai-dai and the rest, as well as the students who were participating in the food festival, they were all stunned by Yunjian's arrogant words. No matter how shocked or frightened the people around them were, they were nowhere near as shocked as Yu Xiaoluo and the instructors. The boss of the Western Underground Black Market was indeed a man named Glenn. Moreover, Yu Xiaoluo had only told Yunjian that her father and a group of Interpol had tried to capture the boss of the Western Underground Black Market but were caught instead. Yunjian had said the boss's name accurately. Even the male students who were studying in the military school and paid more attention to international affairs would not know the name of the boss of the Western Underground Black Market, right? Although Yunjian was the slashing god of Team Monarch, she was only a 15-year-old girl at the end of the day. No matter how powerful Yunjian was, how did she know? While the people around them were stunned, Yunjian was already making her way to where the military helicopter was parked. Seeing Yunjian walking toward the military helicopter, Yu Xiaoluo reacted quickly and walked over to stop Yunjian. Yunjian, calm down. I know you're capable, but Glenn's identity is not ordinary. Interpol had sent many internationally renowned agents to infiltrate the Western Underground Black Market's territory and sacrificed many people, but they could not arrest him. If you act so rashly, not only will you not save old Gu, you'll even lose your life. Yu Xiaoluo spat out those words with red eyes and trembling. As a special forces soldier who protected the country, they faced danger at all times. Yu Xiaoluo and Gu Junjian had known each other for a long time. He hoped more than anyone that Gu Junjian could come back alive. However, Yu Xiaoluo knew that Yunjian was Gu Junjian's current daughter. Gu Junjian doted on this daughter more than his own son. Yu Xiaoluo wanted to save Gu Junjian more than anyone else. But he couldn't risk Yunjian's life. The atmosphere of the food festival immediately dropped. Yunjian knew that Yu Xiaoluo said this for her own good. After all, if she was really just an ordinary girl, it would be very dangerous to rush to the rescue. That was true. However, she was no ordinary girl, nor was she Team Monarch's slashing god. Tomorrow was Qin Yiru's birthday, but something happened to Gu Junjian. How was she going to explain this to Qin Yiru? Was she supposed to watch Gu Junjian get into trouble? She clearly had the ability to save Gu Junjian, so why didn't she do anything? She couldn't do that. For the sake of Qin Yiru, Yunjian had to do something. If I don't do anything, which one of you can save my father? So get out of my way. Yunjian didn't explain much. Chapter 14:29. Even though the instructors were stunned, they did not forget to continue running in that direction. However, the astonishment on their faces could not be erased. She actually got on the helicopter. One of the instructors shouted in shock as he ran. At the same time, he had a stunned expression on his face. One had to know that the instructors present were all very powerful, but none of them could do that. Rushing up the helicopter when it was taking off? That was playing with one's life. Usually, when a helicopter was flying high in the sky, ropes would be thrown down for people to grab onto. Many Special Forces soldiers knew how to do that. Although it was not easy, any Special Forces soldier with a strong enough physique could do it. However, when the helicopter took off, the force from below would cause a strong gust of wind on the ground. At this time, there was no one who could get on the helicopter without using any ropes. At least, the instructors in front of them could not do it. Damn, she's too powerful. Is she really just a student from Min City's military academy? One of the instructors directly complained. Just as he complained, Yun Jian had already knocked out the pilot on the helicopter. Then, she steered the helicopter back and lowered the rope from the helicopter. Mu-ing, get up. After she lowered the rope, she returned to the pilot's seat and accurately steered the helicopter to Mu-ying's side. Mu-ing ran forward 2 steps and then jumped violently. Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors also saw the rope that was lowered. They wanted to rush up and grab the rope, but they did not expect that when Yun Jian lowered the rope, it was right in front of Mu-ing. Mu-ing reached out and grabbed the rope. Then, she climbed the rope and got on the helicopter in a few breaths. Then, she put the rope away. Instructor Yu, I'm sorry, but he's my father. It's my mother's birthday tomorrow. Before tomorrow, I'll definitely bring my father back. With that, Yun Jian piloted the helicopter and left the place skillfully. Damn! Who can tell me why this girl knows how to fly a helicopter? A plump instructor put his hands on his waist and gasped in surprise as he wailed. Just now, they had used all their strength and still couldn't catch up with Yun Jian. This made him feel incredulous. Yun Jian was just a little girl who had just entered the school. Going further, she was Team Monarch/God. Yet she possessed such astounding strength. Now King know why you guys snatched her into your team before she even entered the school. How is this girl a good seedling? She was simply a genius. We might not even meet one in a few hundred years. One of the instructors slapped his knee in an exaggerated manner as he yelled loudly. Yu Xiaoluo scratched his head. He took out his phone and called his superior to request for another helicopter to catch up with Yun Jian. However, since these people were not willing to help her, she had to save Gu Junjian by herself. No matter how powerful Glenn was, he was just Yun Jian's defeated opponent. Yun Jian, how are we going to sneak in? Should we split up or? Yu Xiaoluo asked Yun Jian. Follow me and listen to my instructions. Yun Jian gave a short answer. Then, she took Yu Xiaoluo and Mu-ing to Glenn's. Chapter 1433. The front desk of Glenn's headquarters was the biggest casino in Country X, the Gleaner Casino. Glenn's headquarters was right behind the Gleaner Casino. To enter Glenn's headquarters, one would have to pass through the Gleaner Casino. The entrance of the Gleaner Casino was heavily guarded. Any rustling of leaves in the wind would alert the guards. To enter, one would have to pass through the security check at the entrance. Yun Jian was familiar with the place as she had been here more than once. Of course, she had been here as Slaying God back then, but she had disguised herself with another face. Slaying God's real face had not been seen by many in the underworld or even in the assassin and secret agent circle. Perhaps Slaying God would often appear in public, but every time she appeared, she would change her face. The shape of her face was different every time, and even her height and weight were sometimes ambiguous. Therefore, outsiders had no idea what Slaying God looked like. Although Glenn was a despicable man, in Yun Jian's world, he was a big shot with an extraordinary international status. Even Yun Jian had to put in some effort to deal with Glenn. At that moment, Yun Jian was standing not far away from the Gleaner Casino with Yu Xiaoluo and Mu-ing. The house next to them could cover Yun Jian, Yu Xiaoluo, and Mu-ing. Follow my instructions from now on, Yun Jian said with narrowed eyes. Mu-ing and Yu Xiaoluo nodded. Then, Yun Jian waved, planning to lead Mu-ing and Yu Xiaoluo over there. Just as Yu Xiaoluo was about to walk over, Yun Jian noticed a few people popping out from the side. They grabbed Yu Xiaoluo and stopped Yun Jian and Mu-ing from moving forward. Looking closely, they were none other than Zhang Blackie, and the rest. You guys! When Yu Xiaoluo saw Zhang and the others, he was so shocked that he almost shouted out loud. However, Zhang and the others covered his mouth. Little brat, keep your voice down. Just now, you ran out after saying those words in high spirits. As the captain, I can't just sit around and wait for my death. Listen to my orders later. The rest of you, follow me and sneak in. Zhang gently slapped Yu Xiaoluo's head and said sternly. Captain Yu. Yu Xiaoluo knew that he had been too impulsive today. Who wouldn't be anxious in the current situation? When Gu Junjian was in trouble, who wouldn't be anxious to save him? However, if he acted rashly, Not only would he not be able to save them, he might even lose his life. And Zhang Liang was considering the big picture. In comparison, Yu Xiaoluo was childish. However, Yu Xiaoluo had never expected that his team members would still follow him even though they knew that he was taking a risk. Therefore, Yu Xiaoluo was so touched that he couldn't speak. "All right, don't say anything. Listen to my orders. Let's go." And Zhang Liang waved his hand and said. Chapter 1434. Don't look at me like that. I know a lot of things. Yun Jian turned the butterfly knife in her hand. She didn't lose her smile and said softly. Everyone's curiosity was piqued when they heard this. But at this moment, no one dared to make a sound. Yun Jian spoke all the way, but she was able to successfully avoid the enemy's attention without being discovered. The few people present were slightly impressed by Yun Jian. They couldn't help but sigh from the bottom of their hearts. This little girl was really too powerful. Just like what Yu Xiaoluo said. No. It was even more powerful than what Yu Xiaoluo had described. At least at this moment, they had already entered Glen's base camp. They had sneaked into Glen's base camp in 10 minutes. What an inconceivable thing. One had to know that some of the agents sent into Glen's base camp in the past were even caught as soon as they entered the gate. It took them a few days to barely sneak into Glen's base camp. This was already something that only very powerful agents could do. One had to know how strict the security of Glen's base camp was. It was like a fly flying in from the door. It would be discovered. Because this place was full of cameras. And Yun Jian? She led everyone to avoid one camera after another. She swaggered in as if she was in her own home. That's right. Yun Jian had swaggered in from the back door with everyone just now. She didn't look like she was hiding at all. If they were hiding, it was only now that everyone stopped and hid in the corner under the stairs to discuss countermeasures. Seeing that the few people in front of her still didn't dare to speak, as if they were afraid of being discovered, Yun Jian curled her lips slightly and said, "In the next 10 minutes, no one will pass by the staircase, so you can speak boldly." Based on the fact that Yun Jian had brought them into Glen's base in just 10 minutes, everyone had gone from being skeptical and doubtful in the beginning to believing whatever Yun Jian said now. They believed her without a doubt. "What should we do next?" Yu Xiaoluo asked. "We have to find the dungeon of Glen's base camp first." And Zhang Liang said as he frowned. "Base camp's dungeon?" Blackie asked doubtfully. "The dungeon of Glen's base camp should be in the basement. It's the cell that Glen used to imprison the agents who came to assassinate him. It should be near here." At this point, Zhang Liang frowned, and then his face couldn't help but darken. "Captain, what's wrong?" Blackie felt Zhang Liang's frown and couldn't help but ask. Intuition told Black Sister that the dungeon was not simple. Sure enough, Zhang Liang's next words made the hearts of everyone present tense. The dungeon of Glen's base camp was once known as the strongest cell in Europe and America. Not only were there agents who came to assassinate Glen, but there were also assassins and agents who were subdued by Glen. Chapter 1435. Glen's base camp covered a very large area. Glen had originally built a dungeon here. This was not a secret, but something that everyone knew. And Zhang Liang had never thought that they would really be able to enter Glen's base camp. He had already prepared to retreat in the fastest way if he was exposed. No matter what, as the team leader, he had to protect his team members as well as the 2 little girls from Min City's military academy. Even if he had to sacrifice his life, he had to protect them. However, Zhang Liang had never thought that they would really enter Glen's base camp in just 10 minutes. As for the dungeon in Glen's base camp, this was not a big secret. It was something that anyone with a little fame in the international circle knew about. Even if he didn't have any fame, he wouldn't be afraid that no one would tell him about it if he inquired about it internationally. The dungeon in Glen's base camp was guarded by a forest. It was even more difficult than entering Glen's base camp. In the dungeon, other than the most high-tech door installed at the entrance, there were also heavy guards inside. Not even a fly could fly out. It was said that the most powerful one had escaped from the dungeon cell to the entrance and almost succeeded in escaping. In the end, because he couldn't crack the password to open the door, he was shot to death by a large wave of guards armed with machine guns. Hearing Zhang Liang's words, Black Sister, Yu Xiaoluo, the 2 special forces soldiers standing around, and the members of Interpol all had gloomy expressions. "Captain, according to what you said, No one who entered that place has ever successfully escaped from prison. If our people who were captured and imprisoned are really there, then wouldn't we not even have a 0.1% chance of winning? Black Sister's face stiffened as she asked. Although this was an indisputable fact, and Zhang Liang couldn't bear to say it when he saw everyone staring at him in unison. However, in the end, he still nodded. That dungeon was built a little earlier than Glenn became the boss of the underground black market in Europe and America. It is said that Glenn doesn't like to kill people. He likes to imprison all the agents who assassinate him in the dungeon, and then let them fight on their own. That dungeon should be a place where the winner is the king. A place where the winner is the king. This also meant that in the dungeon, the weak and the strong, if the strong wanted to kill the weak, they didn't need anyone's permission. In that case, wouldn't Gu Junjian be in danger? Let's go. Yunjian stood up and walked out. Yunjian, don't go, Yu Xiaoluo had just stood up and followed Yunjian out of the staircase when he saw a group of people standing in front of the staircase. Wasn't the person in the middle of this group the famous Glenn? At this moment, Glenn was looking at Yunjian and Yu Xiaoluo as if they were prey, and, downstairs. Glenn's appearance was very ordinary. His hair was very short, and he was not tall. He was a very ordinary old man, about 50 or 60 years old. Seeing Glenn standing there quietly with a group of people, Yu Xiaoluo's heart almost jumped out of his chest. It was as if a ghost had suddenly appeared. Hey, you guys! Seeing Yunjian and Yu Xiaoluo walk out of the staircase, and Zhang Liang, Blackie and the others followed. The two groups of people looked at each other. When they saw Glenn, and Zhang Liang, Blackie and the others turned pale with fright. At this moment, Glenn suddenly laughed out loud and waved his hand. My prey, I've been waiting for you for a long time, hee. Laughing loudly, Glenn's subordinates took a large bottle of spray and sprayed it at Yunjian and the others. The people who were sprayed quickly fainted. Glenn's group was already prepared, so they naturally wouldn't be stunned by their own spray. No one saw the smile on Yunjian's face before she fainted. Chapter 1436. In the haze, everyone fainted. Before they fainted, the people who were frightened by Glenn's sudden appearance only had one thought. It's over. Glenn had a strange habit. He liked to watch people kill each other and not be easily killed by his own shot. Therefore, he built the dungeon to watch this group of people fend for themselves. The dungeon held all agents, assassins, or black market forces from all over the world. Those people were all demons who killed without batting an eyelid. They knew the way of survival and were used to killing to increase their vanity. In that place, the king of killing was the ruler. Yunjian woke up early. She leaned against one of the prison walls and closed her eyes. F***CK, UB**TCH. Get moving. Like a corpse. D**MNB**TCH. I won't F***CK you until you cry. A howl came from the side. Without opening her eyes, she knew that a man was forcing himself on a woman. The prison Yunjian was in was very big. It was about the size of 5 classrooms. Moreover, it was full of people. Men and women were mixed together. Here, there was no distinction between men and women. If a woman was too weak, she would become a tool for men to vent. Yunjian opened her eyes and saw Mu Ying, and Zhang Liang, Black Sister, Yu Xiaoluo, and the others. Looking to the side, there was Gu Junjian, whom she had not seen for a long time, and Gu Yunjian's teammates who were caught here with him. Yunjian, you're finally awake. Yu Xiaoluo heaved a sigh of relief. Yunjian had actually woken up a long time ago, or it could be said that she had not fainted. Only then did she stand up. From the beginning, she had already figured out everything. After Gu Junjian and his teammates sneaked into Glenn's base and were discovered, they were locked up in the dungeon. In the dungeon, other than women who were not strong enough and became slaves for men to vent, the newcomers would be beaten up by the old people in the dungeon. Some of them would even die. The reason why Yunjian and the others were fine and Gu Junjian was not killed was because Gu Junjian and the others had a very strong teammate, so no one dared to bully them. While Yunjian was unconscious, the third corpse had already been moved out of the dungeon. Those were the corpses of the weak. What should we do? In this kind of place, we will be killed sooner or later. Blackie asked with a pale face. Gu Junjian had a very strong teammate named Lin Wei. The reason why Yunjian and the others weren't challenged by those lunatics in the dungeon was because of Lin Wei. But now, Lin Wei was already covered in injuries from fighting with that group of people. He couldn't hold on any longer. In a place like this, there were only people who were beaten to death. Even a very powerful person would die from exhaustion or infection of their wounds after challenging one expert after another. This was the dungeon. Anyone who entered would die without a doubt. Chapter 1437. Yun Jian's words stunned the men standing in front of her. It was obvious that Yun Jian, who was only 16 or 17 years old, was able to say something like that despite her youthful looks. Not only were the men standing opposite of Yun Jian shocked, but Yu Xiaoluo, and Zheng Liang, He Mei, and the rest were equally shocked. It even attracted the attention of all the prisoners sitting around the dungeon. Gu Junjian was the only one who knew the reason why Yun Jian dared to say that. Gu Junjian was aware of Yun Jian's identity as slaying God. However, when he saw the men having designs on Yun Jian and the other two girls, Gu Junjian had forgotten about Yun Jian's identity. He had stood up to protect her out of reflex. Yo yo yo! Is this chick challenging our prison boss? Right after Yun Jian finished speaking, an indecent male voice was heard. It was the man who was watching the show. Hee hee, this chick has a death wish. How dare she call the prison boss trash? She doesn't know our prison boss's identity before he was sent to the dungeon. Before he was sent to the dungeon, he was Marshal King, ranked 10th on the International Assassin chart. If we weren't trapped here, we wouldn't even have the chance to meet Marshal King, who's ranked on the International Assassin chart. Hee hee hee. Another male voice sounded. This voice was as lazy as it could be. Most of the people here had the mentality of, I won't be able to get out of the dungeon anyway. They were here to drag out an ignoble existence and live as long as they could. There was nothing to talk about, so the people here liked to talk about their past deeds outside. And Zhang Liang, He Mei, Yu Xiaoluo, and the rest looked worried when they heard that the prison boss was once ranked on the International Assassin chart. Even Lin Wei, who had accepted all sorts of challenges from the people in the prison over the past few days and was the strongest among them, could not stand up anymore. His eyelids twitched and his eyes were filled with despair. The title of prison boss was not for nothing. The number of people Marshal King had killed in the prison all these years was immeasurable. No one in the prison disagreed with his identity as the prison boss. Because the Marshal King's fist was hard enough. King Wu. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly when she heard this name. The Marshal King, who ranked 10th on the International Assassin rankings, had lived for even longer than Yun Jian's debut. But Yun Jian had indeed heard of the Marshal King's name. Unfortunately, many years ago, the Marshal King disappeared into thin air as if he had evaporated into thin air. There was an unwritten rule in the international ranking of assassins and secret agents. Assassins or secret agents who disappeared for half a year were automatically considered dead. Naturally, someone else would take their place. It turned out that the Marshal King was not dead, but imprisoned in the dungeon. No wonder King Wu went missing. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. The men who had been calling the Marshal King boss earlier thought that Yun Jian was afraid. They looked at Yun Jian and spoke again, their voices filled with arrogance and pride. That's right. The Marshal King, who was ranked 10th on the assassin rankings, was our boss. Little sister, are you scared now? If you're scared, then come over obediently, or else. Just as these men spoke up to this point, a figure suddenly flitted past in front of them. Yun Jian sent them flying with a few kicks, then grabbed the collar of the man who had been speaking rudely just now and dragged him away. Gu Junjian, Yu Xiaoluo, and the others were stunned when they saw this, but they quickly followed. In a corner, a man had just gotten up from an unconscious woman. He pulled his belt and was just about to leave when a heavy figure was thrown in front of him. This man was the Marshal King. And the figure thrown on the ground was the man who had spoken rudely to Yun Jian just now. The Marshal King abruptly raised his head. When he saw Yun Jian, his brows furrowed slightly. Who are you? The Marshal King's vigilance was still very high. He looked at Yun Jian and immediately asked. Although this little girl was young, from her appearance, she was not an ordinary person. Not long after the Marshal King asked, Yun Jian's equally arrogant words were heard. Chapter 1438. Gu Junjian and Mu Ying, who were the first to rush up, were not surprised when they heard Yun Jian's words. After all, the two of them already knew about Yun Jian's identity. However, Zheng Liang, Black Sister, and the others who caught up from behind, as well as Lin Wei, who was being supported and beaten to the brink of death, were all stunned when they heard Yunjian's words. Yunjian. What did she say? Not only did she say that King Wu was a trash boss, but now she wants King Wu to give up his position as the prison's boss? Black Sister didn't like Yunjian very much when she appeared, because in Black Sister's eyes, Yunjian was here to cause trouble. Now, she disliked Yunjian even more. Lin Wei was the strongest in their group, and the only reason why the people in the prison didn't bully him was because Lin Wei was still alive. However, there were still a lot of people who were eyeing Lin Wei covetously, waiting for Lin Wei to die before rushing up to make things difficult for good Yunjian and the others. Probably because the people here were locked up for a long time without seeing the light, the only thing left in their world was killing. King Wu, who was standing opposite Yunjian, stretched out his thumb and rubbed his nose. His ugly face was full of red pimples, and it looked like he had overindulged in debauchery. In the past few years, the only person who dared to challenge me was you. Little girl. King Wu rubbed his hands and said this sentence in a strange tone. It was obvious that King Wu was now very unhappy with Yunjian's actions. The evil aura emitted from King Wu's body made Lin Wei tremble. Lin Wei was the strongest in Gu Yunjian's group. At that time, he fought with King Wu once and was defeated in a few moves. However, King Wu didn't kill him. Everyone in the prison knew that King Wu liked to torture people slowly. When people were tired, or he wanted to make a move, he would kill them. Later, before King Wu killed Lin Wei, Gu Junjian, and the others, Yunjian came. What a pity. It seems that today, not only will I be the only person who challenged you in all these years, but I will also be the executioner who ends your life. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She wasn't scared by King Wu's aura in front of everyone. Instead, she openly looked at King Wu and said this arrogantly. A 16 or 17-year-old girl had just said something that many of the men present didn't dare to say. They didn't even dare to let out a fart. Everyone present was stunned. Did this little girl go crazy after realizing that she couldn't go out? Was she stupid? Because she couldn't accept the truth, she went crazy? Yunjian, you want to kill us? Black Sister ground her teeth, using a voice that was equivalent to a warning to speak these words very softly from her mouth. Yunjian's right's words died to dies, Yun, as always to death. She just to die to die, she, as always caused trouble was caused troubles Yun, as to dies to die. But now, she actually went against King Wu's words. Everyone present knew King Wu's strength. If they were to go against King Wu, then all of them would die. Yunjian naturally heard Yunjian's words, but she ignored them. She glanced to the side. In the next breath, Yunjian suddenly lifted her leg and ran towards King Wu. She made the first move. King Wu saw this and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Yunjian's running speed was extremely slow and full of loopholes. King Wu didn't raise his guard at all. Just as he was about to raise his hand, Yunjian was already in front of King Wu. She suddenly became fierce, and a butterfly knife appeared in her hand. In front of everyone, she directly plunged it into King Wu's neck. King Wu died on the spot. In a battle between experts, victory or defeat was decided in one move. Yunjian's eyes widened when she saw this scene. After King Wu fell to the ground and died before he could even utter his last words, Yunjian scanned the crowd and said with a red smile, "You're right. From now on, I'm your new prison boss." With that, Yunjian bent down and pulled out the butterfly knife from King Wu's neck. Chapter 1439. Yunjian's attack was so fast that no one had a chance to react. King Wu was a very powerful person, so powerful that even Yunjian had to maintain full vigilance. However, in the eyes of outsiders, the battle between Yunjian and King Wu was only a matter of 10 seconds. In these short 10 seconds, he had already come up with dozens of battle plans in his mind in a battle between two experts. In a battle between experts, every move was fatal. Yunjian had shown her flaws to King Wu. King Wu clearly thought that she had some ability, but she was still too young, so King Wu did not raise his guard from the beginning. King Wu was an assassin, so his vigilance should not have been so weak. However, Yunjian had guessed it in advance. Especially the words that the martial king himself had said. King Wu said that in the past few years, she was the only person who dared to challenge him. This meant that King Wu had been in the position of prison boss for a long time and had not met an opponent for a few years. Perhaps King Wu used to be very powerful, so powerful that it was amazing. Yun Jian had never met King Wu, but she had heard of his name. King Wu, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin rankings. His strength was comparable to the 4th on the international assassin rankings. His ranking was just a little lower. In the past, King Wu was very strong, but after staying in prison for so many years, the current King Wu did not work hard in such a cruel world and had gradually lost his edge. Coupled with King Wu's own words, he had not met an opponent who could fight him for so many years. A kind of numbness appeared in his heart, and he felt that no one was as good as him. This was the key to Yun Jian's victory over King Wu in one move. She could read people's minds. Therefore, in terms of opponents, if their opponents were too weak, they would gradually relax and feel that they were already strong enough. They would no longer work hard or fight for anything. However, they did not know that they were just frogs at the bottom of a well. They were stuck in the same place, while others were working hard to the peak. For example, in school sports and running competitions, if the opponents in the same group were too weak, then the results of the entire group would not be too high. Perhaps they were already complacent, but compared to the people in the other groups, they were lagging by a lot. Yun Jian understood this a long time ago, so she never wanted her opponents to be too weak. She even wanted to go to more dangerous places to challenge herself. Because only by tempering oneself and walking on the edge of life and death could one become the ultimate king. In the eyes of outsiders, Yun Jian's action of killing King Wu looked like she had easily killed King Wu with a single move. Therefore, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Especially the black-haired girl who had just said that Yun Jian wanted to kill them. Now, the black-haired girl's face was terrifyingly dark. Inside the prison, the people who were originally sitting lazily and watching the show all stood up at this moment. The Martial King had dominated the prison for a long time. It could be said that he had never met a worthy opponent in all these years. Therefore, the people in the prison were already numb, thinking that no one would be able to kill the Martial King in this lifetime. But no one expected that the person who killed the Martial King would come. Furthermore, she was an underage girl. For a moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Yun Jian. Yu Xiaoluo gulped. He took a long time to call out Yun Jian's name. In the end, he could not say anything. Although Gu Junjian already knew Yun Jian's identity, the moment Yun Jian rushed up, he still broke out in a cold sweat for Yun Jian. Now that he saw that Yun Jian was safe, Gu Junjian felt a sense of relief. At this moment, Yun Jian walked up to Gu Junjian and the others. She wiped the blood off the butterfly knife, then put it away. She stood in front of Gu Junjian and the others and said generously, "All right, I can go now." Go. Go where? Yu Xiaoluo did not understand, but he was the first to react. At this moment, Yun Jian had already walked to the door of the prison cell. Yun Jian, are you thinking of breaking out of the prison? Yu Xiaoluo said in horror. At this moment, the people around the prison turned their gazes over. However, everyone didn't expect that person to be 10 times more powerful than the Martial King. If that was the case, would Yun Jian not have an even lower chance of winning? Wanting to escape, that was simply courting death. Escaping prison, that is death. Yun Jian, don't drag us into your mess. I've been putting up with you for a long time. You've been causing trouble for us since the beginning. Look what you've done now. We're all going to die here. Hee hee. Then do you know how to unlock the password lock? Have you ever thought that if you escape, you will be like the previous boss, who was shot to death by a machine gun because he couldn't unlock the password lock? Don't make trouble for us, we. Black Sister clenched her fists and made a gesture of tolerating Yun Jian for a long time. Gotcha. However, before Black Sister finished speaking, the sound of a lock being unlocked was heard. Black Sister and the others turned their heads in surprise, only to see that Yun Jian had already unlocked the password lock in her hand. Chapter 1441. Careless? He accidentally unlocked the password lock? Everyone was stunned. In front of the prison cage was a door with a password lock. This password lock was monitored by a computer program. Unless Glenn pressed his finger and fingerprint on the top of the password lock could not be unlocked. Otherwise, if someone reached out and pressed 3 buttons on the password lock would sound an alarm. If someone tried to escape, the guards in the prison would immediately know and rush over. Normally, if the alarm did not sound, there would be no guards patrolling here. Because without the password lock, the prison cage was extremely stable. Even if it was bombarded with cannons, it would not be able to blow it open. The cage of the prison was only a little worse than the entrance of the dungeon, so Glenn had no intention of sending anyone to guard this place. This was because if someone wanted to escape, they would touch the combination lock. Once the combination lock was touched, a loud alarm would sound. In this way, the guards would immediately know and rush over. If they did not touch the password lock, the people here would not be able to break the cage at all, nor would they be able to get out. The terrifying fellow who had escaped to the entrance of the dungeon was already the most powerful one among all the prisoners in the dungeon who had escaped. Even he had to spend a few months before he was able to crack the combination lock. Most people had not even stepped out of the prison cage before they were discovered because they had touched the password lock and sounded the alarm. There was an unwritten rule in the dungeon, and that was, once someone was found to have escaped from prison, they would be shot on the spot. Therefore, there were many people who had died trying to escape from prison over the years. Over time, the people here did not dare to take the risk of escaping from prison. But what happened today? Black Sis had just finished speaking, and before she could finish speaking, Yun Jian had already unlocked the password lock? This. Yun Jian, you. At this moment, Black Sis had just recovered from the shock of Yun Jian killing the Martial King. In the end, she had just opened her mouth to say something righteous when Yun Jian ruthlessly slapped her in front of everyone. This time, Black Sis's face really darkened. Originally, it was not black, but it had really turned black. I won't force you to break out of prison with me. Now, those who are willing to come with me, those who aren't can stay. Also, if any accidents happen during the escape, I won't be responsible, because I can still leave without you. Yun Jian looked at everyone in the prison. She reached out and shook the password lock in her hand. In the next moment, she threw the password lock in her hand to the ground. However, she curled her red lips. Although she said that, Yun Jian glanced at Gu Junjian. She was here to save Gu Junjian. As for why she invited others, it was because she was not alone. She wanted to bring Gu Junjian out. The more people, the safer Gu Junjian. Even if the guards were to catch up, Gu Junjian would not be the first to die. Don't blame her, Yun Jian, for being cruel. This was the way of survival. To achieve one's goal by hook or by crook, this was the principle of being a secret agent. She, Yun Jian, was never a good person, and had never admitted that she was. I'll go with you. The man in his 50s who kindly reminded Yun Jian just now stood up and spoke first. His hair was very long because it had been a long time since he had trimmed it. I don't want to stay here anymore. Instead of staying here for the rest of my life, I might as well fight for my freedom. Even if I die, I won't regret it. My name is Wei Gear, a police officer from country Y. I'll go with you. The man who called himself Wei Gear looked at Yun Jian and spoke. Those who want to go, follow me. Those who don't, I won't force you. Yun Jian curled her lips. She did not answer Wei Gear. Instead, she curled her red lips. It was obvious that Yun Jian was not going to say welcome. Other than Wei Gear, Gu Junjian, Mu Ying, Yu Xiaoluo, Lin Wei, He Mei, and Zheng Liang, and the rest, there were also a few people who followed Yun Jian. Soon, under Yun Jian's lead, the few of them made countless turns and arrived at a fork. There were 2 guards standing in front of the fork, each holding a machine gun in their hands. Yun Jian waved her hand to signal for everyone to stop. Then, she bit on an unused butterfly knife in her mouth and rolled towards the 2 guards. What shocked He Mei, Yu Xiaoluo, and the rest was that Yun Jian rolled on the ground and arrived in front of the 2 guards. Logically speaking, in such a quiet environment, this roll should have made some noise. However, the strange thing was that Yun Jian's roll did not make any noise at all. Yun Jian was not human at all. This supernatural thing. Chapter 1442. Yun Jian silently rolled to the side of the 2 guards. She did not reach for the butterfly knife in her mouth. Instead, she stood behind the 2 guards. Because the dungeon was built in the basement, there was no light all year round. They could only rely on electric lights to light up the passageway. Although Yun Jian's movements were silent, when the light shone on the ground, they could see her figure. The 2 guards originally had their backs facing Yun Jian. When they suddenly saw that under the light, other than their own shadows, there was another small shadow on the ground in front of them. They were immediately shocked. After all, if someone approached them in such a quiet place, they would definitely make some noise. Moreover, the two guards knew very well that if someone wanted to escape from the prison cell, they had to crack the password lock. If the password lock could not be cracked by pressing it 3 times, the alarm would immediately be sounded. The only person who could crack the password lock was the terrifying person who had escaped to the entrance of the dungeon and was shot to death by the guards with a machine gun. Therefore, these two guards were not on high alert to begin with. After trembling violently, the two guards wanted to turn around as if they had seen a ghost. Gu Junjian and Zhang Liang, Hei Mei, Yu Xiaoluo, and the others who were hiding in the corner were terrified. The two guards turned around. Just as the guards turned around, however, they saw that Yun Jian and Gu Junjian and the others who had peeked their heads out from the corner had already left the cell. The guards were about to cry out in shock when they heard Yun Jian's voice. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of the two guards, suddenly reached into her pocket and took out 2 pieces of paper that were rolled into a circle. The two guards were shocked that Yun Jian and the others had escaped from the prison and were about to scream. She took out the paper towels with both hands and stuffed them into the two guards' mouths before they could make a sound. Then, Yun Jian grabbed the two guards' jackets and used their own jackets to completely tie them up. Yun Jian then held the butterfly knife that was biting her lips in her hand. She pressed the butterfly knife against the neck of one of the guards and called Gu Junjian and the others who were hiding in the corner to come over. Gu Junjian and the others walked over very carefully. There were only 2 guards nearby, but they still chose to be careful in order to prevent any accidents. Yun Jian, why don't you just kill them? Why are you wasting time here? Hei Mei said to Yun Jian angrily. Yun Jian ignored Hei Mei. She lowered her head and looked at the 2 guards. She whispered to the guard whose neck she was pressing, "Dungeon entrance, lead the way." Hei Mei was a little angry that Yun Jian did not kill them and was wasting time here. But after hearing Yun Jian's words, Hei Mei suddenly came to her senses. The dungeon was very large. Hei Mei immediately felt that what she said just now made her seem stupid. Yun Jian's eyes stared straight at the guard whose neck she was pressing against. The guard shook his head desperately and tried to break free. He even tried to knock on the ground with his feet to ask for help. It was a pity that Yun Jian stabbed the guard's temple just as he was about to flee. With a muffled groan, the guard died instantly. Seeing the blood splatter, Hei Mei was still shocked. Even Lin Wei, who was stronger, couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He even complained in a low voice, "This little girl is quite fierce." Before he finished, Yun Jian had already pulled out the butterfly knife and planned to stab the other guard's temple. When the other guard saw this, he shook his head and began to mumble. Seeing that the plan was successful, Yun Jian's red arc curved and she said, "Lead the way." The guard immediately nodded. Yun Jian stood up and waved her hand to let Gu Junjian and the others hold the guard hostage. Generally, the guards in the dungeon were strictly trained, and they would definitely not betray Glenn after being caught by the enemy for a while. It would take months of torture to force the hostages to submit, but Yun Jian only used a few seconds to make the guards submit obediently, and Zhang Liang, Hei Mei, Lin Wei, Wei Gear, and the others were stunned. This little girl's strength was definitely not inferior to that terrifying figure from back then. Perhaps they could really leave this place. They soon arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. There was a password lock hanging above the entrance. This password lock was even more complicated than the password lock in the prison back then. Ordinary people would not be able to understand the program on this password lock. Yun Jian, quickly unlock it, Blackie said excitedly. At the same time, her heart clenched tightly. It's too late. They're coming. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She looked ahead, the way they came. However, she saw that directly opposite the dungeon, a large group of fully armed guards rushed in front of Yun Jian and the others. Each of them carried a machine gun in their hands. Ah! How did they discover us? Blackie was so scared that her legs instantly trembled. The few people present immediately recalled that this was where that terrifying figure was shot to death by the guards' machine guns. After so many years, the scene from back then had reappeared once again. Yun Jian wanted to unlock the password lock on this side of the dungeon. Naturally, she would need more time than the prison. And now, the guards were all holding machine guns in their hands. The muzzles were pointed at everyone present. That's how that terrifying figure died back then. We've been discovered. It's over. It's really over. Wei Gear was paralyzed on the ground as he said these words. With me here, Do they really think that these few machine guns can stop us from leaving this place? Yun Jian smirked and laughed coldly. Forget about machine guns. Someone once tried to bombard her with cannons and she easily dodged it. She did not care about these few machine guns at all. Yun Jian's words were just normal words in her eyes. However, in the ears of Blackie, Wei Gear, Lin Wei and the others, these words had a very different meaning. Humans, against machine guns, could still survive. This was the first time they heard such a statement. Without a doubt, they were very suspicious of Yun Jian's words. Even Gu Junjian looked worried. Chapter 1444. The group of guards did not say a word. They raised their machine guns and were about to fire. Yun Jian did not say anything. However, she had already noticed that there was a surveillance camera right above the entrance of the dungeon. There were also surveillance cameras along the way. However, the path they took earlier was the only way. There was no other way. Or to put it another way, Yun Jian knew from the start that the guards had purposely led them here. At this moment, the group of guards had already raised their machine guns. Muing, take them away. Just as the group of guards were still loading their machine guns and were about to point their machine guns at Yun Jian and the rest, Yun Jian shouted. She grabbed the guard who was in front of Gu Junjian and the rest and rushed towards the group of guards. This scene almost made Zhangliang, Wei Gear, and the rest go crazy. Lin Wei frowned and then shouted at the figure that Yun Jian was rushing towards. Young lady, come back. You'll die. She was going to face the group of guards with machine guns alone. Did she want to die? Lin Wei was purely concerned about Yun Jian. Hence, he reached out to grab the corner of Yun Jian's clothes. However, he did not expect Yun Jian's reaction to be so fast. She grabbed the guard who was holding her hostage. She could still run so fast while holding a person. In the blink of an eye, Yun Jian was already about 5 to 6 meters away from the group of guards with machine guns. Seeing Yun Jian rush over, the group of guards originally planned to deal with Gu Junjian and the rest who were around Yun Jian first before dealing with Yun Jian. However, because of Yun Jian's sudden rush, she was already in front of them. When the guards saw this, they immediately turned their machine guns that were aimed at Gu Junjian and the rest to Yun Jian who was rushing towards the group of guards. All the machine guns were aimed at Yun Jian alone. She had lured the machine guns away for Gu Junjian and the rest, taking on the barrage of bullets alone. She was going to die for sure. Even Gu Junjian, who had always been confident in Yun Jian and knew of her identity, shouted at Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, come back. It's dangerous. Gu Junjian shouted as he chased after Yun Jian. Before Gu Junjian could go after her, however, Gu Junjian, and Zhangliang, Blackie Mei, and the rest who were standing where they were saw a frightening scene. Yun Jian did not even turn back as she rushed over. Some of the guards who were armed with machine guns had already loaded their guns and aimed them at Yun Jian. Bang 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 bang. Gunshots rang out one after another. Yun Jian dragged the guard who led the way just now and placed him in front of her like a meat wall. The bullets from the machine guns hit the guard hard. The guard's eyes were still wide open before he died. As he could not make a sound, he grunted twice before he died in terror. Yun Jian did not stop dragging the guard's corpse. The machine guns in the guard's hands could penetrate a person's body. After the gun hit the guard in Yun Jian's hand, it paused for a second before it went through Yun Jian who was behind her. If it was anyone else in Yun Jian's position, they would probably be dead now. However, for Yun Jian, this pause was enough. The moment the machine guns in the guard's hands stopped firing, Yun Jian threw away the guard's corpse in her hand. She jumped to the side. She had already arrived in front of one of the guards. In the next moment, Yun Jian used her elbow to smash the neck of the nearest guard standing in front of her. With one smash, she broke the guard's neck. At the same time, she snatched the machine gun from the guard whose neck she broke first. She did not even think about it. She grabbed the machine gun and swept it at the guards around her. She fired as she ran. A large number of the guards immediately fell. However, those who were still alive would still attack Yun Jian. Yun Jian dodged the bullets as she fought back against the guards. That nimble figure seemed to be very familiar with this kind of battlefield filled with bullets. He was like a general who had survived a battle of life and death. And Zhangliang, Blackie and the others who were in the distance stared with wide eyes. They watched as Yun Jian finished off the last guard. Then, she threw the machine gun in her hand to the ground and walked back to them. There was no trace of blood on her body. However, Her entire body reeked of gunpowder. The moment she turned around and walked over, her high ponytail swayed left and right. At that moment, everyone was in a daze. Chapter 1445. The battle only lasted for 3 minutes. Within those 3 minutes, Yun Jian executed hundreds of moves. Every move and movement was not allowed to deviate by even a millimeter. Everyone who stood rooted to the spot was stunned for 3 whole minutes. Even Mu Ying's eyes flashed with surprise. She was only about 9 years old when she died. She was dead, but Yun Jian was still alive, and Yun Jian continued to train her skills in the organization. After Mu Ying took on this body, she had been practicing martial arts with her parents since she was born into a military family. She was very hardworking and had the experience of being an assassin organization. Mu Ying's skills were not to be underestimated. Compared to Yun Jian, who grew up in the organization, however, the difference was like heaven and earth. Even Mu Ying could not help but marvel at Yun Jian's ability. If it had been her just now, she would have had no chance of winning. In spite of it, not only did Yun Jian succeed, she did not even have a scratch on her. It was like she was so familiar with the scene just now that she could do it with her eyes closed. You. How did you? Miss Blackie's eyes were about to fall out of their sockets when she saw Yun Jian coming back from the other side. After all, that terrifying fellow had died under the machine guns of the guards. That guy who was 10 times more powerful than Marshal King could not dodge the machine gun attack. He could not escape death. What about Yun Jian? She was from Min City's military school, a kid who had just entered high school, but she had dodged it. This scene caused everyone to be shocked, stunned, and terrified. When Miss Blackie stuttered to Yun Jian was already in front of them. There'll be a new wave of guards coming here in 10 minutes. I can't guarantee that they'll point their guns at me every time, so we have to leave now. Yun Jian explained quickly as she stood in front of the combination lock at the entrance of the dungeon, her fingers tapping on the lock swiftly. Xiao Jian, you were so impulsive just now. What if you missed? Dad knows you have extraordinary skills, but every time I see you taking risks like this, Dad gets worried. Gu Junjian was already used to playing the role of Yun Jian's father. He sighed from the bottom of his heart. He was really worried about Yun Jian. Hearing Gu Junjian's words, everyone immediately turned to look at Yun Jian. At this moment, everyone wanted to hear Yun Jian's answer. At this moment, he heard Yun Jian's voice. Her fingers were still rapidly working on the password lock. She opened her mouth and said, "I'll be fine. You don't have to worry." Such a dangerous move. Even I think it's dangerous. If you make even the slightest mistake, someone will die. Your mother and I are the same. We hope that you can only do other things when you can guarantee your own safety. Gu Junjian frowned and said to Yun Jian, "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. In the end, Yun Jian added, "I've never done anything that puts myself in danger. What I did just now isn't the first time. I'm used to these days where I'm on the brink of death. I can guarantee that I'll be fine, so you don't have to worry." As Yun Jian spoke, the password lock on the dungeon door fell with a click. The door opened. Everyone's eyes lit up in surprise. "Follow me, don't wander off," Yun Jian said calmly as usual. "Yun Jian, let me ask you. We were discovered when we first entered Glenn's base. Did you walk out because you knew that Glenn and his men were standing outside?" Yu Xiaoluo, who had been silent for a long time, asked Yun Jian. Everyone was surprised by Yu Xiaoluo's sudden question and turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian did not reply. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would not reply, Yun Jian suddenly spoke. "Yes, everything is going according to my plan. Moreover, Glenn and the others were able to discover our traces because of me. My goal was only to enter the dungeon." Everyone already had a faint premonition about the first sentence, but the second sentence caused everyone to turn pale with fright. The moment they entered Glenn's base, they were discovered by Glenn and the others. This matter was actually directed and acted by Yun Jian? Just as Gu Junjian spoke, Yun Jian lowered her hand that was pressed against the black-haired girl's temple. The black-haired girl breathed a sigh of relief. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian had let go because of Gu Junjian's persuasion, Yun Jian's red arc curled as she chuckled eerily. "It's here." "Ha! What's here?" Everyone was baffled when they heard Yun Jian. They had walked out of the dungeon's entrance and were standing right in front of it. Everyone there, other than Mu Ying, was bewildered when they heard Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian tossed the pistol she had snatched from Mu Ying back to Mu Ying before looking around a corner. In the next second she curled her red arc and said, "Glenn, come out. Aren't you tired after watching for so long?" Glenn? Where was Glenn? Everyone tensed up in shock when they heard Yun Jian. Right now, everyone couldn't help but shiver when they heard the word Glenn. "Yun Jian, can you stop scaring us? There's no Glenn here. If he's really here, why hasn't he come out? Otherwise, we would have been discovered long ago." Black-haired girl thought that her judgment was correct this time. She had just spoken, but before she could finish her words, clap, clap, clap. A round of applause sounded. In the next second, a short, ordinary-looking old man in his 50s or 60s walked out from the corner that Yun Jian was looking at. Was this old man who exuded a menacing aura not Glenn? Everyone was shocked when they saw him. Glenn spoke abruptly, his words directed at Yun Jian. Chapter 1447. As Glenn spoke, he looked at Yun Jian with a probing gaze. As he spoke, Glenn had a cruel smile on his face, as if he already knew something incredible. It was a pity that Yun Jian did not fall for it. When she was slaying God, the top secret agent in the international ranking, Yun Jian did not mention that she was an old friend of Glenn's. At most, it was Glenn who invited Yun Jian to his base and stood behind her with his head bowed like a pug. That was the truth. If Glenn knew Yun Jian's identity, he would not have spoken to her in such a tone. Glenn was just putting on an act. Glenn's appearance had frightened everyone present. And Zhang Liang, Blackie, and the rest were shocked that Yun Jian could see Glenn hiding in the corner. At the same time, they were shocked by what Glenn said. He said that Yun Jian looked like the top international secret agent, slaying God? That was an extremely terrifying existence. Even as Interpol, they did not dare to come into contact with that existence. Gu Junjian was the only one who knew that Glenn's suspicion was right. Yun Jian was slaying God. Cut the crap. Let's do it. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She did not say anything else but said directly to Glenn. He, what an interesting young lady. Glenn smiled. His smile was more seductive than anyone else's. Glenn, you're old now. You might be able to live a few more years if you smile less. Stop beating around the bush. Just do it if you have the guts. Yun Jian shouted, provoking Glenn. That was the truth. Yun Jian was provoking Glenn by saying that. You. Glenn was angered by Yun Jian's words. Then, he rolled his eyes and felt that he had heard Yun Jian say that somewhere before. Just as Glenn was trying to recall where he had heard Yun Jian say that, Blackie's voice rang again with a member of the criminal police force from Country H who was also from Country H. What should we do? What should we do? She actually went to provoke Glenn. Doesn't she know we're in Glenn's headquarters? She was so arrogant just because she had the ability. She didn't even let me scold her. I really don't like her. Ah! These words were said very softly, as if she was afraid that Glenn would hear her. Moreover, Black Sister and this member of the criminal police brigade who came from Country H with her spoke in their own country's language, Country H. People from H and Z looked almost the same. It was said that dating back to a long time ago, people from H and Z had the same ancestors. However, H country's language was completely different from Chinese. The reason why Miss Blackie spoke to the member of the criminal police brigade from Country H with her in the language of Country H was that she didn't want Yun Jian to understand what she meant. To put it bluntly, Heimei completely thought that Yun Jian couldn't speak H language, so she was so bold to say this in front of Yun Jian. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She didn't turn around to look at Miss Blackie, let alone pay attention to her. Instead, she pretended that she really couldn't speak H language. This way, Miss Blackie even more wantonly complained about Yun Jian in H language to the member of the criminal police brigade who came from Country H with her. Just as Miss Blackie was getting more and more excited, Glenn suddenly exclaimed. He looked at Yun Jian and asked loudly, his pupils constricting, "What did you say just now?" "What you said just now is exactly the same as what Slaying God said to me back then." Could it be that you're... Glenn's sudden words made everyone's pupils constrict. However, at this moment, A loud sound of a helicopter came from above Glenn's headquarters. In the next second, a tall and handsome figure jumped down from the helicopter that was flying 7 to 8 meters high. The man who suddenly appeared was so handsome that everyone's eyes lit up the moment he appeared. Black Girl's gaze was drawn to Ce the moment she saw him. Glenn saw that the people standing in front of him were no longer afraid of him, especially after what Ce said. He was infuriated. In the next second, he growled into the dark. "Come out! Catch them! Catch all of them!" Glenn was still in the mood to tease Yunjian just now, but he was only left with rage now. Glenn's men, who were originally hiding in the dark, only waited for Glenn's order to come out with machine guns on their shoulders. Despite Glenn's roar, there was no movement in the dark at all. "Where are they? Where are they? Come out, all of you!" Glenn was panicking now. No matter how capable Glenn was when he was young, he was old now and his ability was not what it used to be. If it were not for the group of powerful guards, he was at most a good-for-nothing. Yunjian waited for Lu Fian at the entrance of a coffee shop where they had agreed to meet. After waiting for about half a minute, Lu Fian, who was carrying a small backpack, hurriedly ran over. There was another girl beside Lu Fian. "Phew, almost late, haha." Lu Fian chuckled and studied Yunjian from head to toe before telling her, "Xiao Jian, you haven't gotten tanner after a month of military training. Your skin is so good." Lu Fian chortled and introduced the friend beside her to Yunjian. "This is a friend I made in the new school. Her name is Wang Cancan. She has good taste and can help you pick out a birthday present for your mom." Lu Fian introduced Yunjian as she spoke. Wang Cancan was a friendly girl. After introducing herself to Yunjian, she struck up a conversation with Yunjian. Although Wang Cancan looked innocent, she was a tough woman in her bones and yearned for a superhuman life. A girl like her got along well with Yunjian. She was generous and did not fuss over minor matters. "Let's go to the mall later to buy a birthday present. It's a newly opened mall and there's a lot of stuff inside. There's also a tour of the most exciting and terrifying haunted houses in the country. I heard that Fatty Wong, Ergo, and the others from our class are scared out of their wits even though they're so brave. Heh, let's go take a look if we have time after buying our birthday presents, okay?" Wang Cancan asked Lu Fian and Yunjian generously. If Lu Fian and Yunjian declined, she would not mention it again. Wang Cancan was not one to fuss over trivial matters. Yunjian recalled what Wang Cancan said. Chen Sini had mentioned the haunted house before and said that she wanted to go. Chapter 1451. Then let's hurry over. Let's take a taxi from here. The mall is quite far from here. Wang Cancan was pleasantly surprised when she heard that. She was carrying a bear cub satchel that matched Lu Fian's. She immediately pinched the bear cub satchel that she was carrying and said excitedly to Lu Fian and Yunjian. Lu Fian had a bear cub satchel that looked almost the same as Wang Cancan's. This satchel was very small and the workmanship of the satchel was very exquisite. In addition, Lu Fian and Wang Cancan were both wearing small skirts that matched the satchel very well. Both of their figures were quite good and looked like clothes hangers. Coupled with this tight satchel, they were simply beautiful. Wang Cancan stood on the road and hailed a taxi. Then, she, Lu Fian, and Yunjian sat in the back seat of the taxi. As soon as they got into the car, Wang Cancan had no intention of alienating Yunjian. She whispered to Lu Fian and Yunjian. Although she was separated from Yunjian by Lu Fian, she still said to Yunjian through Lu Fian, "Trust me. Today, I'll definitely help you choose a gift that your mother will love. Haha. This satchel matches our outfits very well, right? I chose this. Hee. Wang Cancan didn't mean anything else. Yunjian and Lu Fian hadn't seen each other for a long time. Similarly, Lu Fian would definitely have a new circle of friends. Like today, when Lu Fian and Yunjian met, but brought along her high school classmate and friend, Yunjian was in a very awkward situation. In a group of 3, there would always be one person who would be awkward, and that person was none other than Yunjian. Wang Cancan had experienced this feeling of being ridiculed before. She really couldn't bring herself to continue chatting with Lu Fian and then ridicule Yun Jian. It's very beautiful. I trust your judgment. Yun Jian smiled back. Along the way, the three of them kept discussing their school life. In fact, Yun Jian was the one who listened. Wang Cancan and Lu Fian kept chatting. Then, as they talked, they asked Yun Jian a question. When Lu Fian mentioned to Wang Cancan that Yun Jian was studying in the military academy, Wang Cancan's eyes lit up as he looked at Yun Jian. Wang Cancan wanted to be a superwoman. The moment she heard that Yun Jian was studying at a military academy, she was so excited that she stepped past Lu Fian and grabbed Yun Jian's hand. Yun Jian, I've always admired soldiers who protect our country. Especially a girl like you who actually chose to go to a military school. I feel that this requires perseverance and courage. It's a very admirable move. Wang Cancan's actions made Yun Jian smile softly, and she replied with 2 sentences. However, just as he said that, the taxi driver's words were heard. We've arrived at the dynamic shopping center. The 3 little sisters can get off now. After paying the fare and alighting, Wang Cancan brought Yun Jian and Lu Fian to a milk tea shop in the dynamic shopping center to buy milk tea. I took a look. The haunted house is in the basement of the dynamic shopping center. Should we go there first or pick a present for your mom first? Wang Cancan asked Yun Jian from her seat. Let's go to the haunted house first. Xiao Jian, are you okay with that? We don't have to carry the present for Auntie when we enter the haunted house. It'll be bad if we're too scared and break the present. What do you think, Xiao Jian? Lu Fian asked for Yun Jian's permission. I'm fine with anything. Yun Jian was not picky. Just as Yun Jian said that, one of the teenagers sitting at the table next to the milk tea shop poked his head over to ask. Hey, are you guys going to the haunted house in the basement of the dynamic shopping center too? I heard that it's super scary. It's the scariest hospital-themed haunted house in the history of the Guinness Book of Records. The haunted house's name is Xueqi Mental Hospital. There's a strict rule there. They say that girls must be accompanied by strong men. You 3 girls might be stopped if you go alone. Chapter 1452. It was true that Xueqi Medical Hospital was the scariest themed hospital in the history of Guinness World Records. The boy did not spout nonsense. It was obvious that he was here to hook up with Yun Jian and the girls. So when he said this, the boy immediately changed his tune. We're going to the haunted house in the basement as well. Aren't you girls afraid to go alone? Why don't we team up and go together? The boy spoke to Yun Jian and the girls in a roguish tone. Xueqi Medical Hospital had been in Longmen City for a week now. It was only a week's time. After a week, the people from Xueqi Medical Hospital would be leaving for the next haunted house location. Due to the reputation of Xueqi Medical Hospital and the fact that it was limited to 1,000 visitors per day, there were many who came from other places just to experience the scariest haunted house in the history of Guinness World Records. Therefore, not only did Longmen City's residents rush to Xueqi Medical Hospital, even people from other provinces came to visit. The place was packed every day. Just as the boy said that, Yun Jian's cold voice rang. No need. Yun Jian's reply made the boy's face freeze. Ah! The boy did not expect Yun Jian to reject him so easily. The milk tea is here. Let's pack it up and take it away. There must be a lot of people queuing at the entrance of Xueqi Medical Hospital. Let's line up at the entrance and the milk tea will probably run out by the time it's our turn. Lu Fian had gone to get the milk tea earlier and told Yun Jian and Wang Cancan when she came back from the front desk. Lu Fian had heard half of what the boy said to Yun Jian and Wang Cancan just now. Yun Jian stood up at once while Wang Cancan glared at the guy who tried to strike up a conversation with her before following Yun Jian and Lu Fian to where they were. The boy was obviously deflated. He touched the bridge of his nose and smiled innocently at the boy and girl sitting beside him. After Yun Jian and the other 2 left, another boy, who was obviously the boy's brother, put his arm around the boy's shoulder and teased him with a laugh. Zhou Dongxuan, I didn't expect you to fail at picking up girls. Ha ha ha. Look, those 3 girls didn't even look at you. No matter what, you're still the school hunk of second high. How come you don't even have this bit of charm today? The boy teased the boy named Zhou Dongxuan. Go go go. Surnamed Lu, don't talk too much. And those 3 girls? I believe we'll meet them again later. The boy named Zhou Dongxuan blinked his eyes and said expectantly. Yun Jian and the other two had already arrived at the basement. Xueqi Medical Hospital had built the temporary office in the basement. The registration was done there, and there was a queue to get in. After buying the tickets and lining up, Wang Cancan and Lu Fian were both excited and scared. Sipping the milk tea in her hand, Wang Cancan said to Yun Jian and Lu Fian, "Are you guys scared? Once I think about how we're going to enter the haunted house, my heart squeezes." Wang Cancan had just finished speaking when she saw Yun Jian acting like it was none of her business. She paused and could not help asking in surprise, "What's the matter? Aren't you scared?" Xueqi Medical Hospital is the scariest hospital-themed haunted house in history. I heard that many people wet their pants inside. Scared? Why should I be scared? Yun Jian looked at Wang Cancan and Lu Fian's nervous and scared faces and was confused. Because this is a haunted house. Little girl, if you're scared, don't hold it in. Scream when you need to. Young people, don't pretend to be calm. Chapter 1453. Even the auntie next to them could not stand it anymore. The auntie was holding the hand of her 12-year-old daughter because it was almost their turn to enter Xueqi Mental Hospital. She was already panicking enough, and now she heard Yun Jian's casual words. The auntie had nowhere to vent her anger, so she used a voice that sounded like a nosy woman to scold Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian ignored her. We meet again. Haha. Ladies, looks like we are quite fated to meet again. When the line started to dwindle, a ruffian male voice came from behind them. The man's voice was ruffian, but Yun Jian could recognize him from the voice. She did not even need to turn to know who the ruffian voice behind her, Lu Fian, and Wang Cancan belonged to. Wasn't this the voice of the man who had tried to flirt with them at the milk tea shop? Zhou Dongxuan looked at Yun Jian's group happily. He did not expect to run into Yun Jian's group again so soon. Regarding the fact that they were about to enter the haunted house, everyone present expressed their fear. However, as a man of honor, Zhou Dongxuan felt like he should act bravely before the girls. Especially in such a scary haunted house, if the girls were scared, they might even crawl into his arms. Just the thought of it was enough to make him excited. Therefore, Zhou Dongxuan started to flirt with Yun Jian's group even more. "I'm not lying to you. The girls here really don't allow us to enter directly. Xueqi Mental Hospital is different from other haunted houses. It is the scariest haunted house in history with a hospital theme. I heard someone was scared to death here before. Therefore, the girls have to be accompanied by strong men." Zhou Dongxuan was not lying about that. Yun Jian had already seen it from the notice board in the distance. She pursed her lips. "Then, can you bring us in with you? Just bring us in, and we'll split up once we're inside," Wang Cancan asked Zhou Dongxuan. "Sure. We have 5 people here. The 3 of you can form a team and go in," Zhou Dongxuan said generously. At the same time, he glanced at Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't say anything this time. Zhou Dongxuan was the school hunk of Longmen City's No. 2 high school. A guy like him who looked handsome to others was bound to be pursued by girls. For example, the 2 girls who had been following Zhou Dongxuan were Zhou Dongxuan's admirers. However, it was a pity that these 2 girls' looks were very ordinary. Usually, they relied on heavy makeup to support their looks and often mingled with Zhou Dongxuan's group. When walking outside to play, boys like Zhou Dongxuan, who had strong self-esteem, liked to bring 2 girls along at all times, even if they didn't like the girls. They only brought the girls because they could show off in front of the girls at any time. However, Zhou Dongxuan now had better candidates, and that was Yun Jian and the other 2. Not only were Yun Jian and the girls prettier than the 2 girls he brought along, they were also pretty and attractive. It made Zhou Dongxuan want to appear like a hero saving the damsel in distress in the haunted house when the trio wanted to hide under the floorboards out of fear. TSK. TSK. Zhou Dongxuan was thrilled just thinking about it. Especially showing off that he was not afraid of any ghosts in the haunted house to show off his masculinity. How fun could this be? Zhou Dongxuan was the school hunk of Longmen City's No. 2 high school after all. Although the 2 girls who came with him looked average, they were dressed rather fashionably with heavy makeup. Both of them wanted to attract Zhou Dongxuan's attention, but they did not expect him to invite Yun Jian and the girls. This caused the jealousy of the two girls to instantly swell. One of the girls, who had red lips and a thick layer of foundation, said to Zhou Dongxuan in an unconvinced tone, "What are you doing?" "Dongxuan, why did you invite them to come with us? They look so timid. They'll probably scream once they go in. What if they're too scared to leave the haunted house? They'll drag us down." "Wang Qiaoyu, say one more word and you'll leave on your own." Zhou Dongxuan roared at the girl with a dark face. "Dongxuan." Wang Qiaoyu was enraged when she heard him. She did not say anything else after that. Soon, it was Yun Jian and the girls' turn to enter the haunted house. The haunted house had a rule that the girls had to be accompanied by strong men. Zhou Dongxuan's group of 5 consisted of 2 girls and 3 guys. The 3 guys could be considered strong men. There were usually 4 to 6 people entering, but Zhou Dongxuan's group, including Yun Jian and the girls, had a total of 8 people. The staff of Xueqi Medical Hospital gave it some thought and agreed. They then distributed 2 sets of tools to Yun Jian and the girls. 2 flashlights and 2 shields. Yun Jian took one of the flashlights. As for the shields, Yun Jian gave them to Lu Fian and Wang Cancan. Just like that, the 8 of them walked into the dark entrance of the haunted house. The haunted house took up 3 floors of basement, and the whole structure was based on the theme of a hospital. Therefore, the moment they stepped in, they could feel a chill coming from inside. Zhou Dongxuan and the others shuddered, and then slowly continued to walk forward. Yun Jian walked lazily like she was taking a stroll in her own backyard. Yun Jian's action shocked Zhou Dongxuan, but it also caused Wang Qiaoyu to grumble. "Haha. Stop acting so mysterious. Let's see how long you can last." Just as he finished speaking, a woman covered in blood suddenly stood up from a large bathtub covered in blood in front of everyone. No one expected a woman covered in blood to stand up from the empty bathtub. At this time, Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the girls were so shocked by the sudden appearance of the woman that they screamed and covered their mouths. When everyone looked up, they saw that Yun Jian was not at all intimidated by the woman who was covered in blood. Instead, she went to the woman and studied her from head to toe before she grinned. Chapter 1454. Yun Jian's words shocked the woman who had appeared out of nowhere, who was also the staff member. Usually, when a student of Yun Jian's age suddenly saw a female ghost emerging from the bathtub with blood all over her face, their reaction would have been as intense as Zhou Dongxuan and Wang Qiaoyu's. Even Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, who came with Yun Jian, could not help screaming when they saw the female ghost. One of the main reasons why Xueqi Medical Hospital was so scary was that the staff members acted as ghosts very realistically. The makeup technology turned the workers from normal humans into zombies or zombies. In fact, inside the haunted house, the workers would use the method of zombies to chase after the visitors, giving the visitors the feeling that they were in the haunted house. Xueqi Medical Hospital, Longmen City Station, was a large-scale haunted house that toured the country. There were dozens of medical scenes, abandoned hospitals, gory scenes, and insane doctors, nurses, and directors. Zombies crisscrossed, maze-like routes, terrifying traps, and secret passages. The visitors had to be on high alert during the game because there was no telling when the ghost would appear before them, as zombies were everywhere. The female ghost hiding in the bleeding bathtub was just the beginning. In spite of it, the female ghost hiding in the bathtub was enough to scare everyone to death. Zhou Dongxuan and the other 2 boys who wanted to show off in front of the girls shrieked like the girls. When Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the rest, including Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, heard that Yun Jian was not afraid of the female ghost's sudden appearance, she even went up to reprimand the ghost for not being scary enough. This immediately eased the tension in the atmosphere. Zhou Dongxuan and the rest, who were scared half to death, just now snapped back to reality. Due to Yun Jian's words, the female ghost, who was disguised as a staff member standing in the bathtub, was stunned. She was completely stunned. After all, which girl who came to a haunted house to play did not scream or panic when she suddenly saw a ghost or hide behind a man to beg for protection? Instead, the ghost stood in front of her and told her that there was not enough blood? How could such makeup skills tell that she was a staff member at once? How was this little girl supposed to act like a little girl? This time, it was the staff member who was acting as a ghost who was taken aback by Yun Jian. Even though they knew that the female ghost standing in the bathtub was a worker in disguise, Zhou Dongxuan, Wang Qiaoyu, and the others were too scared to approach Yun Jian. Lu Fian and Wang Cancan, on the other hand, came to stand beside Yun Jian one after another when they snapped out of it. You're crazy. We came to come to the haunted house to have fun. If you say it like this, it won't be fun anymore. Wang Qiaoyu grabbed Yun Jian's ponytail and screamed. Wang Qiaoyu was already unhappy with Yun Jian, so she found an opportunity to scold Yun Jian. What are you talking about? What right do you have to criticize Yun Jian? When we came in, I said that we would split up after entering the haunted house. Now you can go in your own group, and the three of us will go in a group. Don't walk together. Wang Cancan saw that Wang Qiaoyu was obviously not friendly to Yun Jian, so she shouted at Wang Qiaoyu, Zhou Dongxuan, and the others. Then she pulled Yun Jian and Lu Fian to the side. After taking 2 steps, Zhou Dongxuan urged them to stay. Hey, don't. Let's go together. My classmate didn't do it on purpose. I'll teach her a lesson. Then, Zhou Dongxuan turned around and scolded Wang Qiaoyu. This scolding indeed made Wang Qiaoyu shut her mouth, but it made her even angrier at Yun Jian and the other two. Wang Cancan wanted to pull Yun Jian and Lu Fian away, but looking at the darkness ahead and the zombies that could jump out at any time, she paused and followed Zhou Dongxuan. The group of people continued to move forward. On the way, Zhou Dongxuan asked Yun Jian, "Aren't you afraid?" "Why should I be afraid? This level of haunted house is not at the same level as Fujijiu haunted house. Fujijiu haunted house is not scary at all. This level of haunted house can't scare people." Yun Jian said this sentence very calmly. However, these words were very different in the ears of Wang Qiaoyu and the others. Fujijiu haunted house was recognized as the world's most terrifying haunted house. Have you been to Fujijiu haunted house? Hee, don't talk to us as if you've been everywhere, okay? You make it sound like you've really been to Fujijiu haunted house. Chapter 1455. Wang Qiaoyu did not believe that Yun Jian had been to Fujijiu haunted house. After all, it was widely acknowledged as the scariest haunted house in the world. Generally, to explore a large-scale haunted house like Fujijiu haunted house, not only did one need wealth, but more importantly, courage. Perhaps Xueqi Medical Hospital was scary enough and was widely acknowledged as the scariest mobile haunted house, but it was mobile after all. The setting was improvised. Fujijiu haunted house, however, was different. Fujiji haunted house used an abandoned local hospital as its backdrop, but the difference was that Fujiji haunted house had chosen an abandoned hospital as its backdrop. Furthermore, the theme of the haunted house was also a hospital, so the illusion created in real life was naturally different from Saga Hospital, which was a makeshift hospital. There were people who were scared to death in Fujijiu haunted house every year, but many were willing to sign up for the adventure. Putting aside whether Yun Jian dared to go or not, Fujijiu haunted house was located overseas after all, and Yun Jian did not look like a rich person at all. That was why Zhang Qiaoyu dared to speak to Yun Jian in such a tone just now. It doesn't matter if I've been there or not. What's important is that I know now that you've definitely not been there. Yun Jian held the flashlight in the dark, her lips curling into a mocking smirk. Yun Jian's words were profound, and if one listened carefully, was she not implying that Wang Qiaoyu was ignorant? Wang Qiaoyu was the kind of girl who didn't take her studies seriously in school. She hung out with a group of hooligans in society and hung out with boys all day long. She smoked and drank and felt that she was special, as if she was the only one in the world who was the best. Therefore, once Yun Jian said that, Wang Qiaoyu spat in anger. Do you have a death wish? Do you know who I am? My brother works for Longmen City's top mafia group, Falcon Hall. He's in the underworld. You'd better know your place. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Wang Qiaoyu threatened Yun Jian right away. Wang Qiaoyu's brother was not her biological brother. It could be said that he was just a brother she recognized in the underworld. This kind of familial relationship was very popular among Wang Qiaoyu's group. Wang Qiaoyu, I won't invite you to play with us anymore. Zhou Dongxuan yelled at Wang Qiaoyu before Yun Jian could reply. He had finally managed to persuade Yun Jian and the others to stay with them. In the end, with Wang Qiaoyu's provocation, what if Yun Jian and the others refused to leave with them? After Wang Qiaoyu was yelled at by Zhou Dongxuan, she immediately shut her mouth. Wang Qiaoyu wanted to pursue Zhou Dongxuan, so Zhou Dongxuan's words were fatal to her. In spite of it, Wang Qiaoyu loathed Yun Jian even more. At this time, they had already walked a long way and arrived at a new theme room. The new theme room was a morgue. As soon as they arrived, Wang Qiaoyu and the others, who were still talking, immediately tensed up and didn't dare to go forward. Even though he knew that this was a haunted house, he was still afraid. 3 beds appeared in front of everyone. There were 3 people lying on the beds, and each of them was covered with a white cloth. The surrounding background was painted with horrifying images. Just the torchlight alone was enough to send chills down one's spine. The group stopped in their tracks in fright, not daring to go forward, because no one knew what was lying on the 3 beds. In addition, there was no light here, so they could only rely on the torchlight to illuminate their surroundings. Go! Go go go! Follow me, follow me! Zhou Dongxuan said in a trembling voice. He looked to the side and told Yunjian, "Don't be scared, just follow me." She was gone when he turned around. "Ah, she!" Wang Qiaoyu's exclamation came from the side. In spite of it, something even more shocking happened. Just as the zombie was about to pounce on Yunjian reached out and grabbed the zombie's collar accurately without even looking up, yanking the zombie to the side forcefully. The zombie fell to the ground after being pulled by Yunjian and quickly got up, looking at Yunjian as if she was a ghost before running away. He didn't need to look to know that the zombie was male. Needless to say, this male was a staff member. In the end, Yunjian was so strong that she pulled the male staff to the side. More importantly, they heard from others that it was the zombies that chased them when they entered the haunted house. Why was it that Yunjian was the one who scared the zombies away? You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.